Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. I, of course, am your host and beat reporter, John Shipley, and I have been covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for OnSI every single day since August 2019. So continue to lock in with us as we move forward through yet another offseason together. All right, today I'm going to talk about, I've mentioned a little bit in yesterday's episode how I think the Jaguars should go about this offseason. I think they should sign guys who've been released and second-tier free agents who won't impact them very much on the comp pick formula, and then let other teams sign Devin Lloyd, Travis Etienne, Greg Newsome, even potentially Buster Brown, and try to get some more picks in 2027 that way. And by signing guys who are released, they don't count toward the comp pick formula. There will be some big names who are released who are just as good as some of the guys whose contracts are set to expire. But I firmly believe that outside of a few names, I don't think the Jaguars should even consider dabbling in the first wave of free agents. And to really hammer that point home, ESPN recently did a list of their top 50 free agents, entering the offseason, the current sphere before we see guys get tagged and whatnot. We're just going to go through some of the top 50 and show you guys how many of these guys who are supposedly the cream of the crop this year just don't make sense for the Jaguars. I've gone on record, you guys. I do not think this is a good free agency class. There rarely are a lot of great free agency classes, but there are some that at least have difference makers, some that are deep at a certain position. This is a bad free agency class to me. The fact that some names are in this top 50, the fact that some of them are the 50 best names, and I'm not even saying they shouldn't be there for this season. They belong there right now. But I do believe that the Jaguars, obviously, there are some guys they should explore going after, some guys they shouldn't. We're going to take a look at several guys from this list and just give kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up, obviously, guys the Jaguars should pursue. Thumbs down. Just doesn't make any sense to. Number one, Trey Hendrickson. I give it a thumbs down. I wrote that I think he's the big name free agent that I would put red flags on. He had injury issues. He isn't really a run defender. He's going to be 31 entering the season. He's not really versatile. He's pretty much just a set it and forget it kind of edge. I think the Jaguars need pass rush help. They need edge rush help. But I think somebody who is a little more balanced in their game, can play to run a little better, and can maybe be a little more versatile, maybe move inside on some passing downs, I think would probably be a better fit with Josh Hanzala and Trayvon Walker. That's not to say Trey Hendrickson isn't an elite pass rusher. Obviously, you add him to the Jaguars defense. They're improving significantly. I just think for what he's going to make in free agency, there are enough red flags there that personally, I think they should kind of bulk at and that they should look in other directions. George Pickens, obviously, no, they're not going to pay a receiver. Tyler Linderbaum, obviously, no, they have their center. Daniel Jones, obviously, no, they're not going to pay a tight end. No, but they're obviously not going to let quarterbacks. Jalen Phillips, edge. I would consider him, frankly, a little bit more than I would consider Hendrickson. You know what he looks like in a variation of the system, because we've seen him play for Fangio on a few different occasions. Anthony Campanile knows him. Obviously, Matteo, Arujma knows him, the new defensive backs coach from their time together in Miami. He's younger. He's at 27. He's not exactly versatile, but he's a more balanced defensive end, can kind of play to run. He's going to cost too much for me to say, he's more of a thumbs in the middle. He's going to cost too much for me to just, give a thumbs up to, but I'd consider him before Hendrickson. And I know that might be seen as a bold take. Hendrickson's been one of the best players in the entire NFL the last couple of years. An elite of the elite pass rushers, but you have to, especially with free agency, you have to use some projection. What are these guys going to look like in 2 or 3 years? Obviously, he'd be somebody who does a lot to help you in the now, in 2026. But you got to think about beyond that as well. Alec Pierce, no. Brees Hall, no. Rasheed Walker, no. Odafe Owe, he's interesting. I kind of lean towards no. He probably needs somewhere where he gets a higher volume of snaps. But really young guy, kind of a late bloomer, 27. I'm going to say no, but you're at least thinking about it. Braden Smith, offensive tackle, no. John Franklin Myers, defensive line. We went over this in yesterday's episode. That's a 2 thumbs up. That's a clear as day, guy they should pursue. He's going to be 29. All those things I talked about with Hendrickson that makes me wonder how good of a fit he is with what they want to do. I have zero of those questions when it comes to John Franklin Myers. I think he should be. He's the top graded guy on this list, who I think they should absolutely take a look at and pursue aggressively. Alontae Taylor, he's interesting. He's played in the slot. He's played outside. He's played in a couple of different systems now in his time. He's somebody who, he's going to be 27. Probably Jaguars get priced out. But do you probably make a phone call to see where he's at? I think so. Quay Walker, no. Tariq Woolen, I don't think so. He probably is better in a different scheme, runs a little bit more man. He's probably just a little too inconsistent, I think. Mike Evans, no. Jalen Watson, I don't think so. I think they're going to want more of a playmaker, somebody who just gets his hands on more footballs. He has, I think, 3 career interceptions, but somebody who it's at least trending in a better direction. Malik Willis, no. E.T. and Devin Lloyd, obviously, guys already who they are kind of working through the plans of. Isaiah Likely, I don't think so. I don't think you go and give money to a tight end when you have Braden Strange. Now, I think they should add resources to the tight end position. Like I'd consider using one of those top 100 picks they have on a tight end, but I'm not spending money on one. Romeo Dobbs, no. Khalil Mack, interesting because he can still kind of be, an impact edge against the run and against the pass, but he might be better with his snaps down a bit. Maybe if they're looking for like a veteran designated pass rusher. Kyle Pitts, no. We've talked about that. Kenneth Walker, no. Brian Cook, no. I don't think they add a safety. Antonio Johnson came on. Rayon Lane played well. And then obviously you're going to see something from Caleb Ransaw. So, yeah, Andrew Wingard's a free agent. Eric Murray's getting older, but I don't think so there. Rashid Shaheed, I don't think so. Caleb Fonchason, guys, it would honestly make a lot of sense. It'd make a ton of sense. He seems like he fits everything they like about an edge. He's had his 2 best seasons of his career in back-to-back seasons. He seemingly has figured it out. Jawan Jennings, no. Javonte Williams, no. Boy Mafe, I mean, he's an interesting guy as a pass rusher. He's a very explosive, great first step, can really just get off the ball. I remember when he played at Minnesota, that was one of his big things. I mean, dude can just get off the block. But ultimately, they need kind of a change up pass rusher, but we've talked about it before. I just think there's some guys who, fit better. Isaac Samala, no. Guard. Reed Blankenship, no. Don't need a safety. Zion Johnson, no. Greg Newsom's already accounted for. Connor McGovern and David Edwards, center and a guard, no. Nashawn Wright, he's interesting. Had a ton of big plays this year. He has obviously the ability to play man. He looks like he did some good things in zone. He's somebody I consider. Joey Bosa, I don't think so. Chika Kwano, no. Wan'Dale Robinson, I want to say no, but Liam Cohen obviously got a lot out of him. He's 25. Maybe they sign him to be a 4/5th receiver. Cam Curl, no. Joe Bartolomeo, no. Cade Mays, no. Jaquan Brisker, no. Leo Chenal, no. Rico Dowdle and Kobe Bryant, no. N'Kobe Dean, no. And then Kenneth Gainwell and Alex Anzalone, no. How many names did I list on there that really just get you excited? I can't imagine there are that many, and there weren't that many who I think are clear yeses. That just gives you some perspective on what this free agency period could look like for the Jacksonville Jaguars.